Hi everyone, Stepan here. In this video I'm going to go over the Halloween Gambit, since it's Halloween. Before continuing with the normal d4 theory, I want to cover this dubious and unsound opening, but really fun and potentially deadly, especially in faster time controls. In classical chess, I would recommend that you use it with caution, handle it with care, or not use it at all, because if your opponent knows how to refute it, you're in trouble. But still, if he doesn't, if you want to take risks and imagine that your opponent is ignorant, then it's a good choice. Okay, so the Halloween Gambit is the position you see on the board. After white sacrifices his knight on e5, this comes from the 4 knights game. So once white plays e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, white doesn't play the normal Italian with bishop c4 or the Spanish with bishop b5 or the Scotch with d4 or anything else. White plays knight c3, the 3 knights. And the black here usually is going to respond with the 4 knights game, which is knight f6, after which the Halloween Gambit is possible. Let me just mention briefly that after knight c3, bishop c5 and knight takes e5, knight takes e5, d4, bishop d6 leads to a theoretical variation often played on the highest levels. Another option is d6, which leads to a Philidor type position. And the last option is g6, which I wouldn't recommend. That's the Steinitz defense and the 3 knights, which I think is slightly better for white. But as I said, after knight c3, knight f6 is going to be played 99% of the time. There are 6,000 games in the database from this position. And now white, of course, has a bunch of normal moves, but he can take on e5 and play the Halloween Gambit. One thing that should be noted is that black doesn't have any other option but to take. If black plays something like d6, knight takes c6 is simply a pawn up for white. If black plays something like d5, once again knight takes c6. Bishop c5, once again knight takes, and there's no time for any tricks. Okay, so black needs to take. Black takes on e5. And now what's the justification of the gambit? Well, for the knight, white firstly got a pawn. He got the e5 pawn. Secondly, white gets a couple of tempi. Thirdly, white has the potential of black blundering into a worse position. And of course, the position is easier to play for white, despite him being a piece down. So the only move in this position, if you want to keep the pressure up and try to justify the sacrifice, is d4. Now, after d4, the knight has 2 retreat squares. If it goes to g4, then e5 would win the knight, and yeah, that would be unplayable. e5 would, of course, remove one defender, and then even if you play queen e7, something like bishop e2 is a double attack, and it doesn't work. Okay, so after the move d4, the knight can either go to g6 or to c6. g6 is the square you want to go to. If you go to c6, even though the engine still prefers black, it's so hard to play for black that I think after knight c6, white is practically winning on a human level. Why is that? After knight c6, white is going to play the move d5, of course. And after d5, what do? You have several options. You can either go to e7 or to e5, which is a better move. Let's cover e7 first. If the knight retreats to e7, then e5 is a very crushing move. You cannot take because, of course, you give the piece back and have a worse position. But it is the best move. So taking, knight takes d5, and white is just better in this position, has a better knight, has an advanced pawn, the material is all of a sudden equal, and yeah, white is just good here. The other option after knight e7, e5 is to retreat the knight further back, and this position is now already winning for white after d6 and knight f5. You don't have anything here. Knight b5 threatens knight c7 check, winning the rook, so cd6, ed6. If you take bishop d6, which is the best move, you give the piece up, and if you don't, then you stand to get checkmated or have to give up the queen. So this is just busted. So after the move knight c6, d5, you cannot go to e7, you have to go to e5. Now the problem after you go to e5 is that white now once again plays with tempo with the move f4. Knight g6 now, and you wish you've retreated it to g6 in the first place, and now e5. After e5, two options once again, one better, one worse. The best option is to give up the extra piece with bishop c5, and after ef6, queen f6, this position is equal. If you castle, you are better slightly, apparently. So queen f6, which is a human move, I think is going to be played most of the time. Queen e2 check, king d8, and the position is equal. So, and if you, after e5, if you don't give your piece back with bishop c5, if you continue with the normal human move, knight g8, saving a piece, now white is better. d6, cd6, ed6, queen f6, and white just has too much activity for the piece. After queen e2, king d8, knight e4, queen e6, white has enough compensation for the piece. So this is what could happen if you play knight c6, which is a mistake and probably what white is counting on. It doesn't seem like a bad move, but it does visually seem like a tempo gain. So I think most people that don't know the opening are still going to be playing the correct move, knight g6. Now, what's white banking on after the move knight g6? Well, knight g6, even though it's a better move than knight c6, it's still not easy to play. So e5, another tempo gain. You can either gain a tempo on this knight, or if he plays c6, on the c6 knight. Now, you of course have to save a piece. If you play knight g4 or knight h5, white is just going to take. The same goes for e4 or d5. So knight g8, the only move under developing. So now, in this position, white is a knight up, but white is going to be ahead in development, justifying that. So bishop c4, quick development, already two pieces looking at black's position, the bishop already staring at f7. And black is up a knight, but it's a g8 knight that isn't going anywhere for the moment. So dynamically, white is equal. Long term, if white loses a couple of tempi and allows black to develop, same as in any gambit, he's going to be worse. So now, several options here for black. Let me just mention then that one mistake that white often plays in this position is f4. After f4, black is just better. f4 is not fast enough because black gets to open up the center and even sacrifice his knight back. If you take the e5, just queen h4 wins the bishop. So after knight g8, bishop c4 is the move. Now, several moves have been tried here. c6 is the best move. d5 is okay. Bishop takes d5 and knight 8 to e7 provokes the bishop back, and now c5 opens up the center, and this is supposed to be better for black, even though he's given up another pawn, because white center is crumbling, black is about to develop, there's no kingside pressure for white, and you're basically a piece down for two pawns, and your center is getting destroyed. So d5 is a great human option. Another option after bishop c4 is d6, which humans also play, which I don't think is that good, because now white has the move queen f3, and after queen f3 it's extremely tricky for black to play. The best move in this position is f6, even though f5 can also be played. You have to defend your f7 pawn, and after f6, e takes d6, bishop takes d6, white now plays the move knight e4, and now it's very hard for black to play. One funny mistake is if black just tries to develop, well, the best move is king f8, and I'm going to show you why. If black just tries to develop, let's say he plays knight 8 to e7, now white just wins with queen takes f6. Why does queen f6 win? Well, because if you take it, it's a mate in 2, because all the squares are going to be covered. Takes, knight check, king f8, and bishop h6 checkmate. So in the position after knight e4, if you have to play king f8, I really don't care if you're a piece up or not. I have 3 pieces in the attack. I'm going to castle. This rook doesn't seem to be coming out anytime soon, and that's why I would say that d6 is not a good move, even though the engines once again give more than -1 to black. And the best move after bishop c4 is c6, simply controlling a few central squares, maybe preparing d5, maybe preparing b5, giving a b6, c7, and a5 to the queen, and just giving black a lot more options. Queen e2 is the best move. Bishop b4. Well, instead of queen e2, the engine wants to take on f7, and I'm going to show you why. After bishop b4, the engine wants to take on f7, and after king takes f7, the engine proves, well, okay, that this trade is beneficial, that white is now closer to equality, but after queen e7 and exchanging the queens because you have no other option, I simply don't like the fact that now I'm a piece down and the queens have been traded off. And that's why in the position after bishop b4, I would recommend that you don't play the best engine move, that you castle. And after castles, bishop c3, bc3, knight e7, f4. Since black has played the best possible variation, black is now winning, and that's the risk you're taking when you play the Halloween Gambit. So let's repeat what we did here. So after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, if you play knight c3, or let's say if you want to play the Halloween Gambit and your opponent plays knight c6, you can be sure, almost sure, that you are going to be playing it after knight c3. So when he plays knight f6, you take on e5, he has to take back, you have to play d4. If he plays knight c6, I've shown you how to punish that. If he plays knight g6, then play e5, knight g8 is the only move, bishop c4 is the only move. And now if they play d5 or c6, well, white is worse. If they play d6, I think white is still better. So prepare for all the options. For Blitz, it's still a great opening. I don't know if you say Happy Halloween, but Happy Halloween. Enjoy yourself tonight. Enjoy yourselves tonight. And stay tuned for more chess. See you soon. Bye-bye.